All right, let's call to order the Historic Preservation Board meeting for February 1st, 2022. Okay, first item up would be the roll call. Ms. Kaufman?
Philip Tate. Elizabeth Hawk.
Michelle Hazen. Michael Hill.
Present.
Rachel Iannelli.
Present.
Dr. Kamal.
Present.
Jay Reeves.
Present.
Bill Warner.
Here.
Bridget Murphy.
Present.
You have quorum.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Second, all those in favor of the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving right along. Public comment. This, is there any public comment on an item that's not already on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. Brings us to the public hearing portion, Ms. Kaufman.
Sure. Did you want to go ahead and introduce her during the public comment?
Yes. I'd like to introduce the new executive director of the Matheson Historic Museum, Caitlin Hoff-Mahoney. If you stand up.
Good evening. I just wanted to stop by. Kathleen invited me to join your meeting this evening. To introduce myself, my name is Caitlin. I'm the new executive director of the Matheson History Museum. We're just a block east of here on University Avenue. Our mission is to preserve and interpret the history of Gainesville, Alachua County, and the surrounding regions. And we do have a research library and permanent collections related to our history. So we are available as a resource if you're looking for information. So I do encourage you to stop by, reach out. I'm easy to find. It's director@mathesonmuseum.org. And I just wanted to say thank you for all of the work you do, and I am here if you need me. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, and congratulations on the new position.
Okay, back to public hearing.
Swearing in.
If you are here to present testimony on an item that's on the agenda, can you please stand and raise your right hand? That means you guys too. Can you please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony that you're about to present to the board here today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Ready?
Yep.
Okay.
Public hearing one.
Public hearing one is petition HP 22-0003. This is an after-the-fact COA for the construction of a wood fence. The address is 1004 Southwest 1st Avenue. It's in University Heights South Historic District, and it is a contributing structure. It is 1917, and the owner, Gregory Stutz, is here. This contributing structure is on the northwest corner of Southwest 1st Ave and Southwest 10th Street. It is a two-story wood frame structure that features shingle siding on the second floor and horizontal clapboard on the first floor. A large enclosed porch or Florida room extends from the southwest corner of the building, and that is covered by a shed roof. This room features a continuous ribbon of 3/1 double-hung sash windows, and the rest of the house features 2/2 double-hung sash windows. The main entrance features a simple gabled portico supported by brackets. Now, this is an after-the-fact COA for a fence that was installed on the property on the side and rear of the building. There is an existing 4-foot wood picket fence, and that remains in the front of the house. The new portion of the fence includes a 6-foot vertical board wood fence on the west side between the neighbor's property and a 7-foot, 11-inch fence along the rear portion of the house on Southwest 10th Street. And along the back of the house, which faces an alleyway. So this block is actually kind of split down the middle by an alley, and his house is on, the back of his house faces that alley. So staff's evaluation, as we reviewed the historic preservation, rehab, and design guidelines, indicate when a historic preservation board is needed for approval. And fences and walls that are mostly open, such as a picket fence that's got 50% or more transparency, and extend in front of the house, this can be approved by staff if it is no taller than 48 inches. And that is the same requirement for properties with a highly visible side, such as a corner property. This house is a corner property, and it does have a highly visible side. So if he had continued that, basically what that means is if he had continued that 4-foot fence all the way down the side, staff could have approved that administratively. But along that southwest 10th Street side of the house, the fence continues until about the midpoint of the house, behind the projecting portion of that corner downstairs room. At this point, the fence goes up to 7 feet 11 inches, where it continues at this height around the back of the house along the alleyway. Now, typically fences in the backyard cannot be more than 6 feet in height if you want administrative approval. Otherwise, that's something that goes to the board. There was another segment of wood fencing constructed between his house and the neighbor's house, and that is at a 6-foot height. And he did that because the neighbor already had a portion of fence there, and so he matched the height of the neighbor's fence. So that part, really could have been done by staff, but the back portion, which is about 1.5 feet higher than normally allowed, is what is before you today. The owner has indicated a long-running issue with trespassing in his backyard. So as I told you, he has that alleyway, and then the other half of you go another half block and you're at University Avenue. It's a busy commercial corridor, and the owner has contacted the local police a number of times with complaints of people either jumping his fence or traversing through his backyard. The applicable Secretary of the Interior standards that apply in this situation are standards 9 and 10. Standard 9 talks about new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction. And these endeavors should not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. Obviously, the wood fence is not destroying any historic material because it's not really attached to the house. Standard 10, new additions and adjacent or related new construction shall be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property would be unimpaired. Removal of this fence theoretically could happen in the future, and it would not harm the historic integrity of the house if it were removed. Staff recommends that the application 22-00003 for the after-the-fact construction of the wooden fence be approved because of the close proximity to both University Avenue and the alleyway, and the documented history of criminal activity reported on the property. Now, having said that, I certainly do not condone after-the-fact certificates of appropriateness. Obviously, we definitely want our applicants to go through the process and apply or come before you before the work happens. However, if you don't know, an after-the-fact certificate of appropriateness does come with a pretty hefty fee, which the property owner has paid. And so, based on the situation where this house is situated, that's why I'm recommending approval.
Okay. All right, would the applicant like to add anything?
Just one thing, it's not just people trespassing. I didn't want to build a fence. They were trespassing, and I don't know how many times we called the city and the police. I had the chief of police and the city manager tell me to build the fence because they couldn't do anything about it.
Right.
And people were getting shot on University Avenue, and people were dealing drugs on our property, and we couldn't stop it. And the volume of garbage I pick up there, is amazing. Like, we're talking about people have been throwing garbage there, garbage bags full every week. And so we had a partial fence there that was 6 feet, and it did nothing. They were just, it was, people were jumping it, we were kicking homeless, it was crazy. And so I'm sorry that I did it without getting a COA. I felt like I had no choice, and so that's why I did it. So,
Okay, can you mention your name for the mic?
I'm Greg Stutz.
Okay,
I'm the owner.
thank you. Okay, questions of the board, for the applicant? Anyone? Yes.
Because this was done without approval first, he paid a fee for this? What was the fee?
It's a heftier, so when you get a staff COA that's approved by staff, there's no fee. And then regular COAs seen by the board, those fees vary because it could be whether the project is in an enterprise zone or not. And then if you come in for an after-the-fact fee, it's over $400.
So he's paid over $400 already as a punitive for jumping the
Yeah,
gun?
he has to pay that fee before it can get put on an agenda.
So he pays the fee and then we say, okay, you get a tall fence? Is that true?
It's not automatic, that's why we're hearing it tonight.
Yeah. But he's already paid something.
He has, yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I have had items come to a historic preservation board before, and they have made the applicant take a fence down or cut it down to the right height.
Yeah, we've
When
done
the
that.
situation really necessitates, because sometimes people put up a fence that is, it's a good question. So thank you for asking. But sometimes the fence obstructs the entire view of the house from the street, and you can no
Right.
longer see the.
Well, for the record, I'm familiar with this area, and I'm familiar with that alleyway, and I'm familiar with the house in particular. I've always admired it, actually. I understand why he needs a taller fence. But the idea that you don't just go do that, and there's a process, and so
There is-
he understands that now, and we've set a precedent for others, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's definitely the opportunity for the board to say no.
Right. Okay,
Okay.
thank you for answering that
Of
question.
course, of course.
Yes.
For the sake of conversation and addressing this as a potential setting an example for the entire block, I'm assuming that your neighbors are, struggling also with the same trespassing. Do they have fences also?
Most of them do.
Okay.
Can you come to the microphone? Thank you.
So this house is very different because I took the time and money to restore it. I have a background in historic preservation. So I actually went through and like at great expense brought this thing up, kept it a single family home. Everything else is an apartment complex. This is the very last one. So all the other properties have a lot of tenants that are there all the time. They all have some form of fence. But this one's a little bit different. And we previously approached the board about potentially doing a project there, which is another reason I didn't want to build a fence, because if you go back 2 years ago, we had talked about adding some things there, but we're just not ready to do that right now. But if you ask anyone over there, these problems are prolific. But if you cross the street to my property, there's a 10-story building being built. So this is not like a traditional place where, you see historic homes. We're literally, the sun's about to be blocked from our property within a month or two when they build the next floors. So it's a heavily trafficked commercial area in that one strip, Southwest First Avenue. Personally, to me, as someone who goes around and restores buildings, if you go up to my Grove Street neighborhood on 8th Avenue, you can see how I'm repurposing dozens of buildings, not tearing them down. I rebuild them and put them back into service. What's happening over there is kind of crazy, and I've got no control over it. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
It did, and thank you very much. I think because I'm not familiar with Gainesville, I'm familiar with historic preservation processes, but this is very important in the context. I hope, I'm glad I asked and I'm glad you responded this way because this is important to be on the record that this is unlike a typical historic preservation block. Because we make decisions based on the conformity with the block and the context. This does not replicate other examples in the block.
Yeah.
So important to address that and to have it on the record. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I rip fences down, and I do that all over town, and I never would have I even built that fence with I know a little bit about the preservation law, so I actually built it with a picket at 6 feet tall, in case I had to cut the top of it off, in case something like say, because this was an emergency. We built this thing, like, there was a lot of stuff happening there. Like, my tenants' lives were being threatened by the drug dealers coming out of this hookah lounge that's right behind it. So it was an emergency, like, and so I thought, okay, when we do take it in front of the board, if I have to do it, then I will. I'll bring it down to it. But the reality is, like, people just keep throwing tremendous amounts of trash and jumping it, and it didn't feel secure enough. And that's what happened.
Thank you.
Okay. Comments of anybody else? Yes.
I also have a question for the applicant, and if anything, just a suggestion. There was a similar case like this back in my hometown, and one of the things that the board members, a question they posed was, though the fence in its height, I understand where you're coming from, it's to keep people out, but it can also backfire and keep people in if the police are looking for them. I'm just curious, if anything, for your own benefit, the gaps in the fence, is there any way to see through it, or in between each fence post, is it like no gap?
Yeah, we did a board-on-board
Okay.
fence, which seemed to be what had been approved by the, in the past, I've seen people build in historic districts.
Okay.
So we did that instead of putting a gap in it. And yeah, if you go over there on like a Friday or Saturday night, late at night, I can't even begin to describe to you what it's like. There are so many cars up and down that alleyway that they back up. The police have done nothing. They flirt with the girls. It's fascinating. There's a lot of correspondence between me and Chief Jones about this.
Yeah.
We needed to block it off. Like, I would have liked to put an ornate metal clear fence that's more period to the, I would have loved to do that, but also we did price that out, and it was, with COVID and everything, it was something like $60,000, and it was crazy. Like, I called 2 fencing contractors. And so we just said, okay, with all these mitigating circumstances in this particular case, like, that's why I did it. But, I am super concerned about their security over there. Like, you'd think with all the students it'd be a safer area, but not yet, maybe in a couple of years.
Not at that location.
Thank you.
Okay. Any last comments? Okay, any public comment? Okay, seeing none. Want to do a roll call?
We need to make a motion.
Oh, yeah, we do. That would be,
I'll make a motion.
please do.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay, so let's see here. Make a motion to approve petition HP 22 a lot of zeros and a 3.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, that's with staff conditions.
With, yeah.
Okay. We have
Yeah, I don't know that there were any staff
No,
conditions.
I don't think there were.
Yeah.
Approve it how it is.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and Kathleen, you want to call?
Nathaniel Courtney has joined us, but you kind of missed the item, so if you don't want to vote, that's fine. Okay. Michelle Hazen,
Aye.
Michael Hill,
Aye.
Rachel Iannelli.
Aye.
Am I pronouncing that right, or is it Iannelli?
Either way.
Okay. Dr. Kamal? Aye. Jay Reeves?
Aye.
Bill Warner,
Aye.
your motion carries.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to our second public hearing item.
Public hearing 2 is petition HP 22-00004. This is a certificate of appropriateness for alterations to an existing Florida room and the construction of a new veranda sun deck. This is in the Northeast District, also known as the Duck Pond, at 224 Northeast 10th Avenue. This date of construction is 1929. Current owner is Howard Resnick. This magnificent colonial revival structure, known as the Tigert Barrow House, features a double-height portico supported by slender square piers, a formal entryway with classical surround, gable dormers, and a Florida room porch on the east side of the house that is capped with the Chippendale balustrade. The home was built in 1929 by M.M. Parrish and was leased to the University of Florida to serve as homes for university presidents, including John Tigert from 1929 to 1947 and J. Hillis Miller, who lived there until 1955. The Barrow family, who is the other home, the other name the home is known by, purchased that home in 1969, and they played a large role in the preservation of many historic Duck Pond homes. This house was recently purchased by Dr. Howard Resnick in October 2020. He is a 50-year monk and scholar with a PhD in Sanskrit from Harvard. He is the author of many books, and he would like to turn a good portion of this home, including the first floor, into a sort of library and research center for metaphysical studies in Eastern religions. Some of the upstairs bedrooms will be reserved for visiting scholars. The home already contains over 8,000 volumes, and the intention is to allow local Duck Pond residents and university staff to enjoy these rare resources. The house is currently undergoing an already permitted renovation. That involves, and you can see some of that renovation in one of the photos provided to you. It involves raising the house to repair the foundation under the kitchen. This was bad enough condition that it caused a 2.5-inch sag in the second floor. Sheets 3 and 4 are elevations of the proposed work, and sheets 26 contain the computer-generated renderings to show the 3D images. So the new proposed work, I'm first going to talk about the proposed work to the East Florida room. It includes changing out the current configuration, which is a single pane window with a single pane transom overhead. And they're proposing to change that to a series of all single pane windows and a door on the back side of that room. They're proposing to change the railing configuration on top of the Florida room as shown on your east side elevation on sheet 4. On the west side of the property, the applicant is proposing a new veranda which will wrap around the west side of the house and partially along the rear of the house. This veranda will also have a rooftop balustrade to provide a second floor deck for the owner's living quarters on that side of the house. The staff evaluation is as follows. The east end ground floor Florida room is a significant feature of the house. When surveyed in the 1978 Florida Master Site File Inventory, the Florida room looks very much like it does today. And you have an old 1978 photo of this house towards the back of your packet as part of that Florida Master Site File Form evaluation. You can see in that historic photo, the lattice work, vertical panels are at each end of the wall, and the series of long single pane windows are topped with a single pane transom window. The lattice work in the windows are separated by slender square piers that imitate the 2-story piers from the front porch. The proposed design for this sun porch removes the lattice work, wooden pier posts, and transom features and replaces it with an uninterrupted series of floor-to-ceiling windows. Proposed design does not provide the historic character that the original Florida room currently exhibits. The original balustrade design on top of the Florida room has been replaced by a modern metal picket railing, which you can see on sheet 4. And when I'm saying sheets 3 and 4 and 26, that's what they have numbered on the actual elevation sheets that you were provided. So if you look on the bottom right corner of those sheets, you'll see the 3 and the 4 and the 26 that I'm referring to. The proposed western, now moving to the opposite side of the house, on the west side. The proposed western one-story veranda is a significant size addition that they are proposing, but the majority of this is on the west side and rear of the property. The proportion and massing have been designed to try and match the original sun porch on the east side. Slender square piers are utilized as supports, which are an appropriate feature to use. The railing design for the ground floor and top deck are complementary to the original design, while not directly imitating that original design. Now, there's 4 Secretary of the Interior standards that are applicable here. Standard 2, 5, 9, and 10. So Standard 2 talks about the historic character of a property, and that character shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property should be avoided. The eastern one-story Florida room is a significant feature to the overall historic character of the structure. And that proposed removal of the lattice work, the wooden piers, and the alteration of the window configuration, that would negatively impact the historic character that room currently provides. The introduction of the veranda feature on the western end of the building does not negatively impact the historic character of the property, since the bulk of the proposed veranda cannot be seen from the street and the size, scale, and mass matches and is consistent with the scale of the original feature on the opposite side of the house. Standard 5 talks about distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques and examples of craftsmanship that characterize a historic property. These features shall be preserved. The features and elements, again, this is another standard that talks about you really need to preserve the historic elements that are there, right? The combination of the simple transom configuration, latticework panels, the wooden piers, these all exhibit craftsmanship that you don't find in modern construction. Standard 9 talks about, and so this will jump over to the west side of the house where they're proposing new construction. Standard 9, new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. So the proposed new addition on the west side, the one-story veranda, is complementary in scale and massing to the one-story mass on the east side. But because this is a new addition, the railing and post designs are differentiated from the historic features, and that was done quite correctly. Standard 10, new additions and the adjacent or related new construction should be taken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the property would be unimpaired. The new veranda shall be attached to the historic structure at the side and around the back, and theoretically, that type of construction could be removed from the future without significantly damaging the original house. So my recommendation does include conditions on this. I am recommending that application 22-00004 for the construction of a one-story veranda feature and alterations to the existing east side Florida room be approved with the following conditions. Condition 1, the design of the one-story existing Florida room on the east side shall be retained. New single-pane windows shall be allowed for UV protection and insulation purposes, but shall retain the original size and configuration. that original design of the rooftop balustrade shall be retained and repaired as necessary. Condition 2, a site plan shall be provided to staff, and this is just for confirmation that no setbacks are being encroached upon. Condition 3, final design of the new balustrade on top of the proposed western veranda shall be of a complementary design to the original on the east side, and applicant shall provide final balustrade design to staff for final approval. Condition 4, existing significant trees on the west side of the property shall not be negatively impacted. If trees need to be pruned for construction purposes, it shall be done by a certified arborist with pre-approval from staff. Condition 5, the 3D model renderings and elevations shall all match for consistency. And this is not really their fault. I was working with them previous to them submitting all this, and I was having them change things. But some of the renderings show one kind of railing, and then the actual elevation shows another kind of railing. We just need to make sure that everything is consistent between the rendering and the actual elevations. And these shall be resubmitted to staff before an approved COA will be provided.
Okay. All right, would the applicants like to add anything?
Bob Cohen, and I take care of the owner's affairs, and thank you very much. I want to begin with saying what a pleasure it was working with Kathleen. I don't know a lot about these things, but I'm learning. First, we agree with all the conditions. Not only do we agree, we think they're better. I'll mention the Florida room first. We'll make the Florida room look like it does now. Now, the reason it's being rebuilt is simply when it was an add-on, and when it was built, the drain on the roof was half the size it ought to be. And the pillars that hold up the roof are hollow. The lattice work is actually part of the supporting structure. So the whole thing is just kind of nutsy, the way it's done. We will rebuild it so it looks like it looks now, and we'll submit drawings that way. That's what we want. We'll have the transom windows. We are going to have some books in there, so we're going to install appropriate double pane glass to replace a single pane glass for environmental control. But it will look and feel like it looks now. The lattice work, and we added a drawing, which I can put on the overhead if you want to see it. When I saw the recommendations, we put the lattice work back in. The only difference would be the lattice work will now be decorative, not supporting, because that lattice work should never have been supporting to begin with. When we started digging into the roof to try to fix the drain, and then started pulling apart the pillars, it was like, oh my gosh, I walked on that roof. Mm-hmm. And for the last time. So that will look the way it does. On the west side, when we took over the house from the lovely Watson family, we knew there was a dip in the bedroom on the west side of the house of over 2 inches. We hired Ramjack to come in and do a survey. We hired a building inspector, and they missed it. But we knew there was something wrong, and we were anticipating fixing something. When we started fixing it, underneath it's the kitchen, we realized what had happened to the house. For almost 100 years, the soil's been building up. And the water is draining, and this is not on a slab. It even has a small basement under the main house for utilities. The water was draining under the house, and in rainfall events was a waterfall. Underneath the house, a sewer line was broken under the kitchen, which is not exactly an ideal place, and it was terrible. Louise, our wonderful project manager, is brilliant at this. He was able to jack up the house, preserve it, and we poured a new foundation. And this was permitted by building. Your building department was extremely complimentary during the inspection on what we've done. The house is now fully secure. It has a steel beam underneath the superstructure, and over the kitchen ceiling, it has a huge wooden beam. So that house is squared, and come any hurricane, it will stay that way. So, but in order to solve this water problem, we figured the best way to do it, and we'd like to have some covered space, is to put a porch on the north side, which is not visible to anybody but on the property, and on the west side, and that will solve the water problem flowing. So by putting that, and then we'll have some drainage and all. So we thought that would be a nice feature. Now, Kathleen pointed out to me that the historical code requires when we do something new, it not exactly look like the old to distinguish it. When I designed it, we designed it, we made it look the same. So we're adjusting that, and happily so. So again, to reiterate, the Florida room will look almost identical to the way it looks now, virtually the same. That's our plans. And the west side will have that porch. We agree with every one of the conditions, and they're reasonable and frankly even necessary. I'm glad to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you.
One thing, sorry, Jay, one thing I said. We did measure the setback. I can put it on the overhead if you want to see it, but the end of the porch is 25 feet from the property line. So we're far, far from the setback. And we will obviously share the plat with you and the drawing. But we did run that today to get you a precise number. It's 24.8 feet or something like that.
That's plenty of room.
Yeah, but.
That's good.
It was a good
But I do
question.
need to have the site plan for the.
No, we're gonna redo these if this is approved based on the conditions. We'll give them to you, of course.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sorry.
All right. Comments of the board? Questions? Yes.
So, so wrapping the back, I just had a few questions. So wrapping the back is to protect from water flow coming off the back. Does the decking have some waterproofing?
Yes. Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
So it's going to be a solid surface deck.
Absolutely, with drains, and the water will be collected and it'll go into some kind of French drains and take it away from the house.
Okay.
We have pictures of the waterfall that exists now going under the house.
And I noticed in the renderings here, we've got some door details. I noticed one of the doors is sort of like a wagon wheel design. Another one seems just off character. So the doors that we're seeing in the drawings, do you have, I don't see a recommendation here for doors.
No, we did supply a detailed material list. We will adjust those doors to whatever you want. We have no problem with that at all. We're not attached to it. We are adding one door on the west side upstairs. We're placing a window with a door to exit, but that's on the west side, not very visible. And then we're slightly changing the windows in the kitchen, which are really quite asymmetrical now, because that was an add-on to the house, and we're improving the symmetry of it. And that's in the drawings.
So I'm noticing, this is the existing. That's the front door. So on the second story,
Yes.
there's a door that's being added, and it just doesn't, it seems sort of out of character for the
Yeah.
house. So, okay. Yeah, we could make that a condition. The site plan, the 20, I think you said 25 feet, is that from the neighboring brick house?
No, that's from, there's a fence there.
Okay, so by the fence, so it's
Yeah.
25 feet off the side of it.
Off of the, it's off of the property line, which is the fence.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Okay, that's a good question, though.
okay, thank you.
Hey, I've got some questions, and I don't know if this is just a drawing error, or a different version, or what, but the kitchen roof appears to be raised and the dormers have disappeared.
Yeah, that isn't changing at all. And
Okay.
that was we're using a chief architect to draw it, and it was almost impossible to get the roof right on it. Jay, you got a good eye. And we noticed that. We're not touching that. That's not changing at all.
We have dormers.
The kitchen roof isn't.
So it's not getting raised?
No, there's no change going on with the kitchen roof.
All right.
But it was almost impossible to make the software produce that without going to it by hand. And since we weren't
Okay.
touching it, we didn't worry, but
Well, that's why I prefaced
Good
it
catch,
with it
Jay.
could be a drawing error.
very good catch.
The other thing is on the east side porch, I believe the condition calls for reconstructing the railings or repairing the railings, and you're probably gonna have to reconstruct them because you're taking everything down, obviously.
We're going to have to, well, it's worse than that. The wood in the railing is fairly rotten. I'd
Right.
say about a third of it is rotted out.
Right,
And we went up and before I knew how weak the roof is, we worked on there, tried to fix the little
yeah.
cornices on top and like that. Found out that it's wasn't working at all. But we built in the backyard, we put up a tent with a small wood shop to do some of the work. So it works quietly in the backyard, and we will lay that fresh to look like it does now. And we have plenty of pictures.
Okay, well, my request to you is that it needs to replicate the detail and the way the curving rails go up, the caps, but also the height of that particular balcony, because I bet you that is less than 36 inches. And it needs to stay proportional. Now, on your new porch balconies,
Yeah.
it needs to be 36 inches to meet code, anything that's new.
I would suggest that, if I could, that you put that in as a condition.
Okay, but I just wanted to bring it to
Yeah,
your
yeah,
attention.
I mean, it's a good point. We
And-
plan to make it look like it is,
Right.
but to be precise, and because we're not quite meeting the new code, by having it as a condition, it kind of, we're doing this for historic reasons.
And let me just tell you, you can get a variance for that if it becomes an issue in permitting. Yeah, because a lot of those early railings are like 30 inches.
Yeah,
And that's not actually, because there's no door going out it, it's not considered an occupied balcony.
correct.
So
Well-
that one you can keep original, but the ones on the other side, you'll have to meet 36
Yeah,
inches.
I got out there through the window, but yeah,
Yeah, well, mine's
absolutely.
the same way, but like I said, 30 inches is what was proportional.
Okay,
And it's highly visible on that corner.
Yeah, we've taken a whole series of pictures and
Yeah.
in order to accomplish that, because Kathleen explained to me, if we put it in that, it ought to look quite the way it looks now.
Well,
And-
it should replicate in this case.
Yeah, and it replicates the word.
Yeah.
And we don't mind if it's in there, and we are not approaching you for any change that it looks now, other than, the only minor thing would be is if during construction, the support beams may have to be adjusted a little. We're not sure of that yet. We
Yeah,
haven't
that's
engineered it.
understandable.
Yeah,
The other issue, across the back of the house, the balcony and the porch below it, and it may, once again, this is on sheet 3, it may just be
Yeah.
a drawing error, but the columns don't seem to make rhyme or reason with the balcony above. And they're really large spans, and because you're showing like one column behind the house. Now, when you get to the end of the porch, in some of the drawings, it shows multiple columns, and some of the other drawings, it doesn't. So that's why I'm just trying to figure it out.
I didn't distribute the columns evenly
Yeah,
because structurally we can put a strong beam. over
yes,
it.
but a long span like that is not traditional. You probably should have more
Yeah,
columns.
yeah, we can, we consider,
Okay.
finishing the
All right.
span. No problem.
Less to stay in character with the house.
And also because the back of the house would be the main entrance for the people. So that's why it's open. On the other side,
Yeah,
people don't walk there.
well, this is strictly a suggestion, but if the board wants to make it a condition, they can.
we're okay either way, Jay.
Okay. Okay, I think I think that gets it for my questions. Anybody else have any additional questions?
Or even suggestions, we're so open. We want to remake this the crown jewel of the duck pond.
Oh, yeah, it's a very significant house. Yeah.
Very, and that's why we have it. And the next thing that we'll do when we're done with this is landscaping. We want to improve the landscaping significantly, but obviously this is done first.
Okay?
I do
Yes.
have also some comments about some of the mismatch on the drawings. I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. The skirt that's after raising part of the house, that's brick-like, which is good to distinguish as the new addition. Just want to make sure that it's correlate to the different views of the house, because in some views where it seems to be, it should be at the east side, is this where the chimney should be there? The east elevation in exhibit number 4, isn't this where the chimney should be?
The chimney is on the east side of the house.
Yeah, and it's not showing in exhibit 4.
It's
Oh.
just probably an omission on the drawing.
Yeah.
Because it
you're
shows
right.
up on the renderings.
It shows in the rendering, and that's what
Yeah.
confuses, because chimney is usually a good way finding to know which side we're looking at. I just want to make sure that the skirt is gonna be brick only in the addition.
We're not touching the chimney.
Yeah,
Well, in fact, that wall of the house is the same as the outer walls of the rest of the house. And when the house was originally built, that was not enclosed. So
Right.
that east side wall of the house is an outer wall of the house with a functional chimney and a fireplace on the other side.
Right.
We're not touching that at all. That's the original house.
yeah, I understand, but you're
So the
doing
chimney
the
doesn't
brick
even
skirt,
go.
right? You're doing the brick
Uh,
on the base and the
Well,
skirt?
the brick is there already, we won't
Brick
be
is
touching
there,
that. That's the original brick foundation,
Okay,
and we're not touching that at all. And that, our engineer said that's as solid and as well-built as can be, as is the main house. The only structural problem is the kitchen that was added on and the Florida room that was constructed above the original, just outdoor deck that was there, was built out of Legos.
Yeah.
And that's when we're done, the Florida room will have, Florida room lifespan now, according to a couple of engineers that looked at it, isn't very long. When we're done, the lifespan will be as long as the main house. Similarly, the western part of the house, that add-on that has the kitchen and the master bedroom above it and all, the lifespan now was a decade at the most. When we're done, it will be the same lifespan as the rest of the house, which I don't know what that is, but it's a long time.
Long time for a historic house, yeah.
Yeah, the house is pretty good. There's, the main house, there's a little bit of foundation settling, but not enough to make any difference and not enough to look at. And we had a few very skinny people go under and check it out.
Okay?
so for the parts that's raised, what you gonna cover that part, the, on it?
Like it is now, it won't look different than it does
So
now.
it is gonna be brick?
Yes,
Okay, isn't this supposed to look different because this is gonna be a new addition because you raised it, so is it gonna be a matching brick or is it gonna be a
well,
different?
when you say brick, I'm not sure, let me pull up the picture. Maybe we're not talking the same thing.
Yeah, this is
Exhibit number 4 and number
we're
4
talking the
for-
south face of the kitchen, I believe.
Southeast
I believe it used to be brick.
Oh, the southeast part of the house?
and the
There's
chimney,
brick
which is
there
supposed to
already.
be-
That's what I thought. It was
And we're not touching that brick. That's original brick. It's very solid. It needs a little grout, which will be part of the reconstruction, but the grout won't make it look any different than it does now. There's a little water damage to the brick, but it's fairly minor and it's very easily repaired.
Okay.
But those are good questions, though. What you're trying to focus on is it going to look like it looks like now? And our goal is to make it look 99% like it looks now.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Anybody from the audience? Yes.
Struggling a little bit on the new addition balcony on the west side. It appears to be flush with the house, whereas the balcony on what's the existing sunroom is sort of set back. So is it really going to be matching? Does the new balcony come all the way to the front of the house,
Well,
to the edge?
it will be, the idea was on the west side, the idea was to be flush, and part of that was the lines look good and it fit, and my understanding is new construction can be a little different than original. When we're not going for exact symmetry between east and west, but we're going for similar symmetry, but not precise symmetry.
And I agree with that. I think my concern is because this is going to be a large structure. My concern is that it's sort of taking away from that front facade by lengthening the house in a way that feels a little unnatural. You know, I feel like a step in there would really help it to just sort of meld in. I mean, and I think you are going to have the differences already with the railing heights and some other, you know, obviously it's not mimicking it in terms of being a sunroom. So I think you already have some differences, and with that, I just.
Well, let me, if I get what you're saying is, we would. Yeah. Yeah. It's 11 feet 7 inches more to the house. So it's not a huge amount, but, you know, that's what it is. 1/7 of the house. We stared at that one a lot. It's possible to make it go in.
Even just, I know you have a window right there too.
Yeah, we do.
So, but even if you could just bump it in a foot,
Could you move that
windows
in
are there.
a little bit so it's not flush with the house? Is that possible?
just so it's not flush with the.
Yeah, here, this here, instead of being flush with the house, it goes, yeah. Can it go a foot or a half, 6 inches even, just something?
I don't know that those windows are there.
Yeah, then I'm gonna have to move a window.
No, I wanted to ask you about the windows as well. I mean, they are underneath the balcony into the kitchen. Those are very different windows.
They are.
Than anything else we're seeing on the structure.
Yeah, they definitely are. They're not gonna be windows that open, goes into a kitchen. They'll just be glass, but they'll be set back inside the porch. So that they won't be hardly visible. You'd have to walk to the side of the house and really look at it to see.
That's the house from the street.
I mean, you know, I drive by that house pretty much daily, so
Yeah,
I live in the area, and so I do know, like, as you're driving down 10th Avenue, you are going to catch a glimpse of that, especially, you know, pulling this new porch. I mean, I think it will be visible. I mean, it's just my thought that bumping it back on the entire structure a bit and then doing something with these windows just feel sort of out of place.
Well, those windows are not there right now.
Right, they don't exist. These are new windows.
You're
And
correct.
They don't match
They're not compatible with the rest of the house.
not compatible at all.
Well, and let's talk about it. Obviously, we're flexible, and here's our idea. It's mostly covered by porch, and we wanted to get some light in the kitchen. So idea was to put larger windows there to get some light, and it will be just underneath the porch.
I just, my concern is that this is really, and I mean, it is, you, as you're driving to the, I'm sorry, east, you can definitely see this corner. So definitely windows and doors are definitely something that as a board are, we really look at very carefully. It is, those are defining characteristics of the home. This is already going to be a pretty large change. And, what we've seen on all of the other windows is we have a shutter design. So definitely, having some idea of what, so I mean, if you change the window configuration to some degree, you may be able to get a little more room to bring this back a bit.
Well-
I think by just adding a porch in general, I mean, that is a west-facing side of your house. I mean, no matter what, you are going to lose some light to that. I hear that concern. I mean, and that's just from, adding anytime you have a porch.
The original window, the picture window on the west side,
There was a picture window there
south,
already.
the northwest, that was a picture window without shutter. So we're just trying to match that to the southeast, to the west, southwest, same.
Where
same
was the
picture
window in the back?
Yeah,
Right.
It was not done with a COA,
There was
Right, it
a
wasn't.
picture window over there.
further on the other side.
It was where the line, there was like a
Yeah.
little door to the back. Is that where it was?
What we put will be nicer, and we'll happily put shutters around that window, but right now, it was a weird-looking picture window that didn't fit the rest of the house at all. We're trying to improve it on that.
But I mean, I think,
There wasn't a picture window there. That's changed.
this is a picture window, there's no shutter. So what we're doing is just trying to match this on the other side with the same type of window. So there is no shutter, no grid, nothing.
It wasn't a lot, the last time a lot of us saw the house. So a previous owner to you guys must have put it in.
Yeah, I don't know the history, but we know there was a picture window, and we're just gonna match it with two, which we can add shutters to, if it would look better. I mean, that doesn't do any harm to us. It's
Well, the point is, I think at this point, we're talking about a window that was installed probably without a COA that wasn't compatible in the first place. Matching it with another window is kind of compounding the problem, in my opinion.
Well, what would you suggest? I mean, we're open to it.
what, can I ask a question about, because I noticed you've got the two picture windows, but then there's like a smaller maybe window in between? Or
Shorter window, yeah.
Shorter, I'm just not sure exactly what I'm looking at, why those windows.
On sheet 4.
Yeah.
They're not there.
Here we are.
And the one they're trying to match.
This is what you're looking at here. This is what it looked like before construction. We had a small window, which will be gone, and the windows are gone now due to jacking up the house.
Right.
Some of the window, that picture window is just garbage, it's not recycled. That was garbage. The other windows that we did remove some windows from the kitchen during construction now, of lifting the house, and those will be replaced. And they're gonna be recycled through a recycler that, in Orlando, who's agreed to take any windows we change. So I think what I'm hearing the board saying is that the proposed drawing that they're seeing for that end of the house brings back 3 windows that are all different sizes and not really conform to the character of the original windows. Is there a way programmatically for what you're doing on the other side of that wall
Is there a way to, since there's no windows there now because of your current project happening, instead of designing three different picture windows, which I don't think anybody on the board actually wants to see a modern picture window on this facade, is there any way to bring back two of the, wow, those are 9/9s.
Kathleen, what about doing instead of, and I'm just thinking of the example, we had a Spanish house just in the corner. They redid the kitchen and we approved, they did a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for, that kind of roll, awning windows. It was
Casement windows.
Yeah, it was casement windows, but they went sort of with a similar kind of pattern. I wonder, because if you're looking for more light, I think what might really look nice is doing a tall window there.
Not possible.
Not possible. What do you have on that wall?
Not
that's-
possible because if we start, this is a balloon framing
Right.
from the first floor to the roof. If we start,
Gotcha, it's supporting.
messing with this, that will mess with the structure of the house.
Okay,
That's the
fair.
problem. So the header, we already have a header there that can't be moved.
All right.
We actually did look at that, and that was the issue.
But I mean,
But the shutters, we can put the shutters outside, no problem.
but
The shutters aren't the issue, it's the proportions of the windows that's the issue as much as anything. You originally had 3 windows there, you can go back with 3 smaller windows. If you've got a counter on the other side, you have to get it. But they need to be narrow too, so they have more traditional historic proportions to them.
There's no reason we can't just put 3 windows there, is there? 3 smaller windows there instead of the picture window?
The 3 small windows. No,
And
but-
are they shorter also
what-
because
what
of the
we-
kitchen
what we
cabinets?
suggest is to keep the proportion of the windows, isn't it?
Yeah, but he doesn't want the picture window. That one's non-conforming. So what,
No, what I'm saying is a window that is proportional, narrow, and smaller. I realize the height may be shorter because it's over a counter.
yeah,
Bring it down to counter height to get it as tall as you possibly can. And the other thing you could do is raise the head of it slightly to get it closer to the ceiling so that it is tall,
yeah.
and do 3 of them. And they're maybe only 30 inches wide or something like that, but then that will give it more a historic proportion and look that's compatible with the rest of the house.
You have any
And
problem with
matching
that?
them.
So the
Yeah.
small window in the center is right behind the hood.
Okay, well then just do 2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just,
okay, if we do 2, I can do that.
Yeah.
Make it taller and narrower,
Yeah.
okay.
And there is another option. If you really want more glass, this house already has double windows on it. You could do 2 narrow windows side by side on each side.
well, I like that.
That's another option.
Well, I like that.
But then that is compatible with the original windows and the character, the style in the house.
So we would have 2 and 2.
Just like over the second floor on the front of the house. And those could be like 2 feet wide by 4 or 5 feet tall, whatever you can fit in there. And that'll give you as much glass as a picture window would have, but in a traditional look.
And we would still want to match.
What Jay is saying is if you look at your south elevation, you see mold windows
Yeah,
Yeah.
together.
yeah. That's
That's
acceptable.
what we're talking.
That's acceptable.
If you'd make that a condition, we'd appreciate it.
Okay,
Okay.
That'd be fine with us.
okay.
And
And probably,
I just want to say, we weren't oblivious to the fact that, we had a picture window, and we didn't realize it would be non-conforming. We thought, we'll make another one to be symmetrical.
I
because
understand.
It was a
Because it
problem.
was there when you got the
Yeah,
house.
yeah. And so.
But obviously somebody snuck it in.
Yeah. So what you're saying restores more originality, which is.
It's
a
more
goal.
consistent and compatible with the original
Okay.
design. of the house.
We're ending up with a better product. I like it. Are you okay with that? Any structural issues?
Oh, actually, that was the original idea,
Mhm.
when instead of matching the picture window with the other one, it was all the way around.
Okay,
But discussing the design of the kitchen, we found out that that would be better for the inside of the kitchen.
Well,
But we can go back to the original idea.
the double windows will give you about the same amount of glass you were after.
And a little
then
short-
lose the window in the middle.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you could modify your little end elevation just to show it, it could be sketchy or whatever. Kathleen should see that, just to
No,
prove it. Yeah.
we're gonna show everything to her first before she gives us the COA.
Yeah.
Okay.
She has to see the she has to see the railings and
Yeah.
several things she has to
Yeah.
see before we get it.
And I think too, we have the, again, sort of the, what's the word, the, like grid pattern there, the grill, we want to see those in the windows, because I think we're seeing that everywhere else, correct?
It will have a grid pattern.
Well, now-
And it'll be exterior.
And
Not
it'll be
interior.
inside and outside,
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
just to make sure you're clear on when you do a divided light window
Raised dimensions.
on a historic house, we expect it to be, the grid should be on the inside and the outside and not in the glass per se.
Yeah, and in fact, three or four windows in the house have been replaced already. More windows need replacement. And that doesn't require the board, but I've sat with Kathleen.
Good.
And we've showed her pictures of the windows, and I
Right.
forgot the name for the grid in the window, but you gave me a
Muntin.
fancy name.
Muntin.
for that.
Muntins.
Thank you. And we learned how that has to be.
Okay,
And
good.
basically, what it comes down to is you can't use cheap windows. We don't want
No.
cheap windows.
No, you can't.
We have a very extensive 8,000 book library. We need windows that actually function well.
Correct.
And so we don't want vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Bill?
Okay, in as much as those upper two windows on the west element do not have shutters, my advice would be to not worry about the shutters on your west elevation. That's going to get awfully busy in a small space.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the shutter was just an option if it was picture windows, but that's, it was getting kind of ugly then. I get that. No, you're right. We will make the windows look identical to the existing windows, other than they may be sized differently.
Okay. And that door, that new door to the balcony that you're putting in beside the existing window on the second floor?
Yeah,
One option for that is if you're not going to do the shutters, then you might consider a French door in that location, because then from the street, it would give the appearance of being very similar in character to the window.
oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another way to put that, it's a full light door with muntins.
Yeah, divided light French door, yeah, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
And does that fit the historical better?
Yeah.
It makes it less noticeable.
Okay.
That's what we're after.
Okay, so a
Let
French
more
door.
light in the space too.
Yeah, it'll give you the same amount of light the window did.
We will put whatever door we do past Kathleen first.
Good, that's
Yeah,
fine.
it's just, you know,
Thank you.
get a look
I
at
don't
it.
think we ever got a consensus on moving what the thought was on the new addition being flush with the,
Actually, I agree. It doesn't have to be as much as the other side of the house, but even a foot offset, 18 inches would be better than being flush.
Can
Big-
you offset that a little?
I have to think about it because it's been difficult to deal with this morning.
Yeah, we have some structural issues there. And we, two things. One, if one of the conditions states that we can restore the house, we can. And we've looked at that. We understand that. In fact, we just went over that to make sure. But we are putting some new beams across here, and they're going in, out to the porch. Not that they can't be cut, but they extend part into the kitchen as part of the support structure. If we move in from there, it's difficult. There's that part of the porch is part of a beam that goes in there. Am I saying that right? You're the construction guy.
but I mean, it's, if that was tied in, I'm not an engineer, but I'm just thinking to make that happen, then the beam would be cut. You'd have to do another vertical support I've got some architects over here. Another vertical support.
Yeah, because you have a post on the corner.
You put a
need
post
second
on the inside, like closest to the house, and then you can take what's the remaining piece of that beam and just set it on top. So you've got 3 posts, post closest to the house, post in the center, post at the end, and then you set your beam on top of that as your support.
We have a little space there to push it back. See, the original window there is already, less than 2 feet from the corner.
Well, that's why we're saying a foot would be fine.
A foot.
It's gonna be very,
Well, we can move the window too.
You're gonna be reducing that window inside, maybe.
moving the windows across.
Because of the balloon frame.
Okay, well, that's something you could discuss with Kathleen, but
Yeah.
I agree, with colonial revival architecture in the 20s, generally the porches always were set back smaller than the ends of the house. And there's plenty of examples throughout the neighborhood of that.
So, we can do this one of 2 ways then. One is, you require us to set back, which we'll have to figure it out, or you give us best efforts and we can work on that with staff, depending on construction.
All right, and let me throw something else at you.
Yeah.
Does this house, I can't picture it right quite, I know it's got wide clapboards, but does it have vertical corner boards on it?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
No, that would,
On the corners, are there corner boards?
no,
No.
no, I don't think so.
Because I think that's one thing that bothers us is the fact that you're gonna have this long band shooting out another 11 feet past the house that,
So, we're gonna do best efforts to stick it in the foot.
Well,
I think that's another valid point, right? Because this is just coming straight out. What is that material of the second story? Because, we have the wood siding, so, it's just flushing up
Yeah,
the house, and I don't understand how that transition happens and what's there. Is that wood siding
and to be.
underneath the rail?
And to be honest, the other question brings up is, and it may just be the rendering there, but the thickness of the floor structure for that balcony, what is the depth of it?
That is 13 inches and 3/4.
Okay, that's fine,
That's the.
because it's drawn much deeper than
that's
that.
like 2 feet.
That's like
No.
30 inches.
Because above that is covered by the fascia, but there are two beams. One is the.
Well,
this-
if
side,
I think it should match the depth of the eastern porch, to be honest. Because it does, if you look at the structure there, which is bothering us, it is lining up with the heads of the windows, which is much lower than
Can
the
you do that? Can you?
actual structure.
Other
And I
porch?
don't want to make the issue more complex, but it should be distinguished from the nearby siding
Right.
in terms of maybe just the recessed texture, maybe color, or should be a separator kind of on the corner. So we shouldn't be seeing the same material all along, because any addition should be distinguished and compatible and conform with the form. So what do you plan for finishing? That portion of the upper floor?
Because, yeah, if you look on sheet 26, look at the eastern porch depth above the glass compared to the western porch that's proposed. And you've just got this vertical wall there with it doesn't have the structural definition
Right,
that
it
the original
doesn't
did,
have-
which was much narrower.
Right.
Yeah, that can be.
If you can use the eastern porch as a guide to what you do on the western porch, I think it would be more compatible.
The rector itself is 13 and 3/4.
Okay.
Make that a condition. It's wider because there's a beam across the top.
Yeah, but the beam's not going to be 3 feet, which is what it appears in the rendering.
So can you make that narrower? Okay, so you want to make that narrower to make it as close as possible to the eastern porch?
As close as possible to the eastern porch.
And that's 1 and 2. Can you set this back
Yeah.
a foot?
That's number 2.
Okay,
What else is, I mean,
It's totally doable.
that's a little odd to me is like typically, you know, again, like you'll usually have a little lip on a porch coming over. This just appears to be like a flush, like.
I agree.
I'm not
It is
understanding
kind of an
what's
oddity.
I'm not understanding it. Like, I feel like there should be some detail or something, providing some differentiation
I think
there.
he can make it a bit contemporary if the proportions are okay, but it need to be really distinguished in terms of the color or the material or the flush, and just something separated from the original sculpture that you can tell.
Like maybe what we could do is, like I was saying, is like, you know, kind of mimic the original porch that's on the east side.
What page is that on you're on, Michelle? Because that's the best shot of it. The original porch.
Yeah,
It's right.
I don't know, nothing's numbered.
yeah.
It's in the front of the packet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, basically, I guess Michelle, what I was trying to say was like,
Oh, I see why.
kind of like,
Because on the original porch, there's actually a roof overhang that projects off that roof, which is the way it's typically done.
Right,
And we don't have that on these new porches.
right,
And it's done to keep the water from washing down the columns and the fascia.
right. I mean, I feel like there's no protection for that first
Yeah,
story porch. I mean, just from a design perspective, as far as longevity goes. And then also, I just
see what you're saying
think by it,
Not all that's missing.
flush, that's not,
Let me just get what you're saying. What you're saying is, where I'm pointing here,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
should be like a lip, and that
Yeah.
prevents water from going down and
If you-
matches the eastern porch.
yeah.
It doesn't have to match, but, you know, yeah, create some sort. That's why if you set it back a bit too, it's gonna give you a little more room,
Okay.
you know.
It breaks it from the siding, but the other reason they did that was to keep the water, to protect the porch itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Because without an overhang, the water's just gonna come into that porch.
Well, and I'm not sure if this is something that you've thought of, but, you know, obviously you're putting a deck up against a wood framed house. And so I'm not sure, you know, if you've thought about how you're gonna be flashing. This should obviously have a little bit of a slope so that the water's running off. But, I mean, it definitely, there's not gonna be much protection there for the wood.
We can add a drip edge here.
You're gonna have to have a drip edge, but what is the surface of the balcony?
Surface brick veneer.
Brick veneer.
Brick veneer, like.
What is the
every-
construction of the porch itself?
The structure of the porch?
Yeah, the construction of the
It's
deck.
LVL.
You're gonna put-
LVL,
No, what is the structure on top of the LVLs?
Cover, they cover.
Advantage plywood.
You're not gonna wanna put brick on top of plywood or any wood.
We can prepare that.
It's not gonna last
Subsurface with the materials.
because the wood flexes. And what it does, it breaks the tile up. I mean, they used to do it quite a bit, but it's not gonna last long term.
Advantage, you know Advantage, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Advantage
3/4,
is the most strong floor.
okay. As long as you make the structure strong enough, so that it does not flex.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm dealing with that on another house on the duck pond right now it didn't last.
And are these pillars that are running, are those wood? The actual,
The posts, yeah,
yeah, the posts,
Post is 6 by 6.
wood,
wrapped, okay,
the
okay,
3/4.
yeah.
Okay.
Now, looking at this picture again, that beam appears to be deeper than 12 inches, but it's below that little roof overhang. And if you construct it to more or less replicate what's going on there, it can be deeper. But when you have it just flat like that, that's what was bothering us. We knew something was missing, and it's that roof edge.
Well, we will, what you're telling us is the porch on the west side should match, at least for the roof area, the
Yeah.
porch on the east side.
It should be consistent with it. Not every detail needs to match, but the general construction should be. Because the problem with that, and I know what's been bothering me all along, is that's more of a contemporary solution. But the reality of it is it has no protection for that
There is
porch.
one thing that is important to notice. These houses were built 100 years ago.
Right,
And the floor in the master bedroom
yes,
were supported with a very weak 1x6,
right.
ledger on the balloon wall.
That's
The
typical.
floor were there like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It was 2 inches deep in the room.
Oh,
had to
I understand,
I
yeah.
had to tear all these and put it again. But the way I put one stud, underneath the rafter,
Mm-hmm.
the joists, all the joists.
Mhm.
So,
What
so
you,
I assume that the structure of the boiler room is not wouldn't cast codes.
yeah, I understand. What I was gonna explain to him, because I had to do this construction on my porch too when I restored it back to the original configuration. Once they had roofed it over, I took all that off and had to put it back. But the rafters that sit on top of the LVLs, you can make them 12-inch or whatever and extend them out and then taper the front, the part that extends off below the edge. So you'll end up with a little bit of a roof edge beyond the balustrade. And that's where you have your fascia and your drip, and it kind of mimics what's happening on the rest of the house. You could even have a gutter if you wanted it. But that is pretty consistent with most of the porches you see from the 20s. And they do have an overhang that's either 12 inches, sometimes 18, but this looks like it's probably more along the lines of 12. But I would use the eastern porch as your guide.
You're okay with that, huh? I like it. But you would.
It's a good waterproofing detail. Then you can use, your membrane roof over that, or whatever it is you're waterproofing, and then do your finish on top of that.
That's it. There is a membrane.
Yeah.
I think it's in our material list.
Yeah,
even.
yeah.
I mean, is there no concern about, like, I guess my thought is, I just know this is west facing, you've got this balcony actually wrapping in the back as well, and this tile, you said tile, it's a tile on the second story porch and on the first story porch?
Yes, tile.
Just worry about that for a few reasons. I mean, really affecting the integrity of the house too, because we get a lot of rain. And I mean, when that hits that second story, it's going to be bouncing up on all that original wood, which, I just, from personal experience, I just had that, they did an addition on my house with the wood, and we just had to come in and do a lot of new flashing.
That's where
It hits the
you
wood,
have
and
to-
it eventually,
Yeah, you have to repair the siding on a lot of these houses, mine included.
yeah,
where it's
because
near
it
the
just
porch
hits,
floor, the
but I
balcony
mean,
floor.
especially with, anytime you have a real, you're not gonna have any slope on this, so.
Well, you're gonna have a little slope.
It'll be a little slope.
little-
You have to have slope.
Otherwise, it'll.
It won't
pool.
shed water if you don't.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
We had to spend quite a bit of money redoing all the gutters of the house.
Yeah.
That they were, as Michelle, what you're saying is happened. The water was draining off the side of the house and was damaging the cedar boards of the house. And and the gutters hadn't been emptied to leaves in at least 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe a decade. And so we had to pull it all out, put some new gutters in, a lot of new gutters. The old ones, we had to realign them. Some of them were aligned in the wrong direction. And the damage you're talking about did occur. And in fact, we are going to have to replace some of the wood on the side of the house. I mean, that it'll look like it does now, but because some of it did get damaged.
Right.
So your point's well taken. What do you think about all this? How you deal with the, say the water here will splash onto that wood and mess it up?
We're up to 10.
Yeah. We just have to make sure the porch has drains in it, and that's gonna drain. And
So we have to work on flashing, flashing.
And splashing and slope.
and slope,
There's a way
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get away of this.
That's the best you can do.
yeah,
And keep paint on the bottom piece of wood, that's all you can do.
yeah. We are likely, when we're done, gonna have to paint the whole house, because we're replacing pieces and chunks here and there, and it will, no way it's gonna match. So, the Watsons before us spent quite a bit of money pulling the lead paint off the house. So at least I don't have to deal with that.
Exactly.
I can paint it without the great difficulty. They spent 50 grand on that.
That was amazing. They stripped it all the way down.
You saw that?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, Keith was telling me what he did. And we had issues where we had to, go in moon suits and remove lead paint and
Oh, yeah.
all of that. So we think to repaint the house won't be as difficult as nearly Keith put up with.
Yeah, agreed.
He put, just give a context, about $250,000 in the house. We're putting about $250,000 fixing up the house, so when it's done. And between that, that's what it takes. It's a lot cheaper to build a new house.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we won't disagree with you.
Well, it needed a new kitchen. I'm guessing that's part of what's happening there.
Well, we were gonna just remodel the kitchen, but we had to gut the kitchen. The only thing left over is the stove.
No, it was time.
And the floor had to go out, the cross beams underneath. And then when we got down there and we saw what the plumbing was like, it was, oh my gosh. Because, I'll give you an example it was done. The electrical panel was added to the kitchen. And in order to mount it, they just drilled a hole in the supporting beam to run the wires. So we moved the electrical panel to a different place. The electrician did that. And then we replaced that supporting beam. And then another beam had a hole drilled in it, not thinking to put an air conditioner to dock.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a big surprise. We had a few people evaluate it, and they said, you don't have to rebuild the kitchen. Louise kept saying, you got to rebuild the kitchen. You have to tear it apart. Turns out, boy, was he right.
Yeah.
But it's a bigger effort than we wanted to do. But the house was not going to last another generation if we didn't do that. And we're going for the long term.
Wonderful. It's nice
All right.
to know.
I just want to say thank you all for your ideas. We're getting a better product now by your collective brains than we did. And we appreciate it.
Okay.
I want to go back to a point I don't think I heard your input about it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kathleen, is there is an item in the guidelines when any addition being added, it need to be delineated from the original structure.
Sure, but that.
It can be subtle.
The differentiation can be very subtle, and, I mean, even by just using different railings from the other side of the house.
But isn't the flush part is against that?
Well, one of their new conditions, which I should read into the record, is that we're going to try to work with them to at least move that front piece back at least 6 inches, correct?
We're going to make sure there's not an engineering difficulty. If there's not an engineering difficulty, we will definitely move it back. It's the only reason we wouldn't is because we can't, but we're okay with that condition.
That, in my experience, can be re-engineered.
Yeah.
So there's not if it can be re-engineered or not, it can be.
Make that a condition. We're okay then. That's okay, Bill.
If the recess is not possible, any plans to delineate that differences in material and, age?
Say that again?
If the recess of 6 inches at least is not possible, is there any plan to delineate the differences as it flush as is?
Well, I think we're going to just, Bill's saying that we're just going to find a way to move it.
There's a way to do it, because, I mean, the thing is this, with that moving back, I mean, we're already gonna have a much higher railing on this side, and so I just think it would be a little imposing to have it straight up against, so, but if it comes back a little bit,
And if the beam, the porch, the new porch beam is expressed as a beam and not just a continuation of the siding, then that's your definition.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are all good ideas. We came with you with our concept and we're making it more historical. Our goal is to make the house fit in as an historical house. We want it to be that way. We're just getting some expertise here.
Okay.
And I'm not even paying for this.
Oh, you will.
You will.
Oh, I will. Okay, I will.
Would you like me to read the new conditions to make sure I have those?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
So, this recommendation would be,
Could I just point out too, in condition one, number one, it says new single pane windows, but I believe that's gonna be new double pane windows, right?
single light, like a single,
Single light.
you're right. It's not single pane, it should be single light.
Oh, okay.
Condition
what's
one,
existing.
Single light, double pane.
they're really not, I don't know what, they're
No,
double-
it's
double
my,
pane with argon between them.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Double pane, but a single light, meaning just all.
Meaning not
panes.
divided.
Not divided.
Yeah, but did you want that transom on top or not? That we're all,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
so there'll be a window,
it's two lights.
yeah, two windows.
Your light up here with
Okay.
double pane.
Yeah, that's our intention.
Great,
Okay,
perfect.
that's what we have now. We just do it. And we've had Shays Glass come out and tell us what it is to get there.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, they're a good company.
Okay, so staff recommendation for application 22-00004 for the construction of a one-story veranda feature shall be approved with the following 5 conditions as set forth in the staff report and the additional 5 more conditions. So, condition 6, all new doors as part of the new construction shall be consistent with the historic character of the house. Final approval from staff.
Correct.
Condition 7, the historic railing on the eastern Florida room shall be maintained at the same height as currently existing and shall be replicated to maintain the same design, including elements such as caps, rails, and stiles. Condition 8, the windows on the west facade, where the kitchen is, shall be 2 sets of taller windows instead of the current proposed set of 3 windows with a raised mutton grid on the inside and exterior of the windows. Condition 9, the floor height of the new second floor decking shall be reduced in height to be closer to the deck height of the original Florida room. And are we asking them to add the small lip or pent roof to
Yes.
delineate?
Yes.
Okay.
'Cause
And,
that's typical.
and including the addition of a small lip or pent roof similar to the existing eastern side. And condition 10, moving the front facade of the new veranda segment back from the main facade of the house to be engineered and brought back to staff for approval.
Do you want to put a distance on it?
Yeah,
I have at least 6 inches.
well,
6 to 12 would be.
Well,
real.
12 would be an objective minimum. I don't know why it couldn't be at least 12.
Well, if it's a structural reason, then,
Well, you create structural solution.
yeah, but it's an existing corner there.
Yeah.
But it looks like the distance should give you room to do it. There should be enough beef there.
Yeah.
At least 12 inches from the main facade?
Objectively, yeah, I mean, if they come to you and go, well, we can do 8 or 9 or 10, that's, you can deal with it.
6 to
But
12.
the objective would be to go back at least 12.
It will depend on the window configuration and.
It'll depend on what's in the wall.
That is an issue.
Yeah,
We'll, fortunately, we have full access to the wall because. there is-
That's what I'm thinking, I'm betting on that.
Yeah, so we can do that. It is engineerable, we can look at it. And Bill, you're probably right, it's just.
everything's there engineerable, just a matter of feasibility. So,
Can
All
I
right.
make a motion to approve petition,
Is that it, Kathleen? We're done?
That was it.
Okay.
motion to approve petition HP 22, lots of zeros and a 4, with staff conditions 1 through 10?
As long as I can say that, any public comment? Okay. We'll continue with your motion. Is there a second for Michelle's motion?
Second.
Okay. Kathleen, you want to do a roll call?
Nathaniel Courtney? Michelle Hazen? Michael Hill?
Aye.
Rachel Iannelli?
Aye.
Dr. Kamal?
Yeah.
Jay Reeves?
Aye.
Bill Warner?
aye.
Motion passes.
Okay. All right, good luck.
Good to go.
And it's,
Thanks for
you,
being willing to listen.
Good to see you, Bob.
Okay.
okay?
No.
No, we're not. We're moving on to the next item.
Okay.
Invite any of you to come take a tour, especially, Bill, you've never seen our library, you've been in the house.
Yeah.
Jay,
Yeah,
I've got to show that to you.
okay, I'd like to see it.
Great.
If any of you are invited, to just come and, get on my email, I think, and I'll give you a tour, and show you the library and what we're doing.
Terrific.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you all very
Thank
much.
you.
You've really been helpful to us.
Thank you for your patience.
Can't wait to see the finished product.
Are we taking this?
Yeah.
this is it. All right, that brings us next to old business. None? New business? None? Okay, informational items.
I actually emailed you, well, I did give you a hard copy this time, because y'all are spoiled. I'm
Yes,
spoiling
we are.
you. But I did email it to you, and in the future, depending on how thick these end up becoming, they may just be an emailable item to save paper.
Yeah.
But, and for new board members, I like to provide items of interest for the board every month. These are just news items, either locally, regionally, around the state, and if they're that important, to let you know what preservation things are going on. Not only because, you know, you work so hard here in dealing with the issues and challenges you have here locally, and sometimes we forget that other boards are, that other boards are doing the exact same thing you're doing, and the struggles and challenges, and sometimes the successes that we have. And I think it's good, just as a reminder, to keep you rooted in your mission here and to feel good about what you're doing. So there's quite a few in this packet that are not local. The big historic hotel on Miami Beach, that is a huge issue down in Miami right now. It is really going nuts down there between the preservationists and that city commission of Miami Beach. it would be a very, very great loss. Another really significant old hotel.
It's been on NPR.
The DeVille.
The DeVille.
And
Fine with those by email, totally fine.
okay, yeah, well, and you may have to be fine with that.
I need to read this.
Yes, but there's and there's a Tampa, a whole historic block in Tampa that's about to go down. Why? Because it was never designated. And these are structures that are over 100 years old. So, you know, here's a community, and it's a fascinating article because they talk to the Historic Preservation Board Chair and all that stuff. And of course, they feel terrible about it, but if it was never protected, there's very
Nothing you
little
can
they can do. Sounds like our downtown.
Yeah, pretty much.
And we have Black History Month this month, so there's a couple of articles in there related to what Matheson Museum is doing, and there's a wonderful talk that's going to be given about the Second Seminole Indian War, I believe,
Yeah, the Black Seminole.
the Black Seminole.
Uh-huh.
And so that's for you to read at your leisure. Feel free to pass this stuff along on to people that you think may benefit from it. Or and I did email your last month's packets to all of the commissioners. So the last resolution that you all passed about the school board building and the informational item packet and information about the state historic preservation comp plan and the economics of historic preservation in Florida. All those reports and everything was given in a lovely little packet to each commissioner and the city manager. So, you know, maybe they look at it. And then I also emailed you the copy of the CLG report that I submitted to the state. It does have most of your resumes in it. If you wanted a couple of you, Rachel and Michelle, I just had to use what you submitted to apply for the board. If you want to supply me with a resume later, you're welcome to. But let you see what we submitted to the state. I did not include all the agendas and all the minutes from the last year because I figured you'd had enough of that.
Yep.
And then I guess it's a new item or informational item, but it could also be board discussion. We do have 2 new board members here today that were not able to come at the last meeting because some were sick and some had events, and now we have this meeting, we have another new board member that is out with COVID. So, but I do want to introduce, and if you would like to say a little something, we would be happy for you to say something. We have Mr. Nathaniel Courtney.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Nathaniel Courtney. I grew up here in Gainesville, recently returned, lived in New York from about 2010 to 2017. Teach and coach at PK Young. I also have a nonprofit organization that promotes and preserves history and works to just, just present information regarding African American history and local history here in Gainesville. So really excited to be on the board and looking forward to learning so much from you.
And you have, but tell us that you used to do some things with the John G. Riley House in Tallahassee, right?
That's correct. When I was getting my master's at Florida A&M University, I had the honor of interning with Mrs. Barnes and
Althea.
Yeah, I love her. So it was
Yeah.
a great experience. Yeah.
And you teach,
History. Yes, sir.
but you have experience. You have civics. You're doing.
Yes, I'm a civics teacher now. Correct.
So we need you here. Thank you so much.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
And then we have Miss Rachel Iannelli. Thank you for being with us today.
Hey, thank you. I'm just a Gainesville resident, been here since '87, left for 5 years, came back, built a house out in the southeast. Currently run a little restaurant, juggling the COVID situation. Did a stint at UF, and did a whole bunch of archaeology there. in historical archaeology, but then also some woodland period stuff on the coast in Dixie County.
Nice.
And yeah, sort of had to walk away from that because it doesn't pay very well. And
Understand.
yeah, I'm happy to be here and like you were saying, I'm here to learn. And so far so good. It's a great night.
Well, we
A
really,
lot of fun.
we really appreciate you giving your time to the board and doing this important function. And thank you so much for being here. And we will be having a little workshop in the future, very, very soon, once everybody's recovered, to bring the new board members up to speed on where are we getting these standards that we're using for reviewing these projects. And you'll get
Kerplunk.
you'll get that little notebook right there. It's something I made for the board a couple months ago. It includes our governing ordinance for Historic Preservation Board and the guidelines and that sort of thing. So you will each get your very own.
It's amazing. Take it everywhere with me.
He really does.
It's a work in progress.
He really does take it everywhere.
I'm just telling you I do. I will this thing.
And for the three new board members that are here, yes, Dr. Kamal is new too. She did get introduced at the last meeting, but we are super excited that for the first time in a very long time, we have a full board. And we're really hopeful that this board can also do some more broader scope things and advocacy beyond, windows and fences and stuff like that, because we have some really big issues
Yes, we do.
that the city is facing with the gentrification and the new construction encroaching into the historic neighborhoods, particularly African American neighborhoods. And we also have an issue, not an issue, but it may become an issue with preserving our historic downtown. Right now, the downtown is not protected, but for a few specific buildings that were already designated, like the Hippodrome. But in general, that is what I consider at risk. So hopefully through education and through continually getting the word out about the importance of preserving that, while also we're gonna have development, and hopefully we can just walk that fine line where we can save what is important to the city of Gainesville and its residents.
Can I ask, what happened with the school board building?
So the school board building resolution did go to the school board members and to the superintendent. I had a brief conversation with probably her assistant about offering my expertise and offering our expertise and services should they decide to move forward with anything of that nature. And it just got to them not too long ago, so I don't know if they've even really done anything with it.
Now, Michelle, I will tell you that I did take it to the County Historical Commission, and unfortunately, due to the surge in Omicron, we didn't have like an in-person meeting, so we weren't able to adopt the resolution. But I know that I think this month we're having an in-person meeting, so I think there we will. What? We're not. I did not get that email. I'm pretending I didn't see it. Okay.
Okay.
So I don't know if we're having a public meeting, but basically until we have a meeting in person, we're waiting, so.
I just wanted to mention the Historical Commission appointed me to write a letter to the school board as well. And Kathleen, we have a Kathleen that as the staff person for the Historical Commission. Kathleen called me today and she said Karen doesn't want to have an in-person meeting, so therefore it's only a workshop, so therefore we can't vote again. But she said I can write the letter and just send it. We don't need to vote on it.
Melanie, do me a favor and just state your name and address.
Melanie Barr.
Perfect.
Yeah. But we are writing a letter as well. The Historical Commission will be writing one. And we have your letter, and so we'll try not to duplicate it.
Oh, but you're welcome.
It's a model, though, because it does state that it's a contributing building,
Oh, yeah.
which I think is critical.
Yeah, so don't worry, we got pressure on both ends.
That's all I have for you.
Okay. Any board comments? Okay.
No, I just want to say, for the sake of gentrification,
application discussion. We are full board. Now it's something I'm very personally, as you know, passionate about. And I know from a previous conversation with you and Andrew, with my class, this is something, it's a work in progress for grant application. Whatever on our end we can do to support that, because we see changes in demographics, and if historic properties owners are not able financially to do the upkeep, we can address that in whatever means that you see appropriate. We can discuss that, and fully you have us all.
Yes, Dr. Kamal happens to be an expert in sustainability and gentrification at the University of Florida, so it's perfect because the city commission actually had asked this board those very questions at the point of the reappointment hearing.
Adrian hates Santos, I swear to God.
So it's good. It's good that we will
Hi.
we will get to use your expertise.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait. It's going to be fun.
Right now.
Let's see it in action, Dr. Kamal.
That's it.
Okay, all right. All right, next meeting date, March 1st. We're adjourned.